The Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Question Blomi, Mr. Deputy Speaker, by the Treasurer Blomi, Boss Blomoni Block Country. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, last week we had the Minister for International Trade and Investment, Honorable Richard Maru, speak about stopping loans and his party stand on loans come 2027. Again, Mr. Speaker, we hear from the Minister of Commerce of the need to continue borrowing more, even up to 50 billion if required. Mr. Speaker, we know that our borrowings are somewhat unprecedentedly high and still more to come. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my question to the Minister are as follows. What is your government's official position in terms of borrowings and more loans? Number two, Mr. Speaker, what is your cabinet's position in terms of loans since PNG is hearing contrasting views in their Honourable House from two very senior ministers? It is sickening, Mr. Speaker, and deploring to see two very senior ministers with opposing views and opinions when it comes to a very important component of the government's policy of funding the national budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition for his very timely question on the government's policy position on borrowings and loan since we've been in office for about 5.5 years, and his question also on Cabinet's position on what he interprets as policy conflicts between two Cabinet ministers. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, I note the overall concerns that have been raised in this House over the years and by our people on loans taken by our government. But again, and as I've explained in the past, looking at loans simply as a number is not sufficient. That's not the way we should be assessing the performance of government. But looking at loans as a share of the economy should be the way that we look at loans. That's really important. That's really, really important. Firstly, just a quick background before I touch that question. Our national debt peaks in 2026. It's all there for all of us to see in our 13-year plan. It peaks at 2026, and then from 2027, when we meet that all-important target of achieving a surplus budget, then for the next 7 years, from 2027 until 2034, that's when we'll start reducing debt very aggressively, and then give the government of the day the option for a debt-free sovereign. Another important point with the way in which we've been managing debt, our policy on debt and loans, I'll touch loans first, is to continue with replacing expensive commercial loans that was a feature of the previous government, with interest rates as high as 8 to 9%. Since we've come in, we've replaced those loans by good concessional funding at about 2 to 3%. Though this year, rising interest rates means that we're now paying around 4 and a touch under 5%. So with the loans we take, Mr. Speaker, it's not easy to get a loan. You need to demonstrate the ability to repay that loan, and that's what we've done. The loans we get as a country are large, very, very large numbers, and so it's equally difficult to raise those funds. But the main point is that we can demonstrate we have a clear pathway to continue reducing debt, and that's what we have. We reduce our debt by about 1%. Our deficit is a share of our economy or deficit or GDP. We reduce that at about 1% a year, or about 1 billion kina. So we're doing that pretty well. We're on target. So that's on repaying some of our loans and the policy on our borrowings. So the third important point I wanted to share with our policy on loans and borrowings is that whilst debt might and will peak next year in 2026, what's important since we've come into government is that those loans, as I mentioned earlier, shouldn't be seen on their own, but as a share of GDP. It's actually reducing. It's actually reducing. So if we refer back to our 5-year medium-term fiscal framework, we'll see that debt as a share of our economy this year projected at 47.9%, far below the FRA limit, which originally was changed to 60%, but in the last 2 years we reduced that by about 2.5% per annum. So this year, 47.9, when debt peaks next year, as a share of our economy actually drops to 45%, 2027, 41.5%, the year in which we're targeting a budget surplus, all the way until 2034. On Cabinet's position on the views of different ministers, that's a question that we'll need to ask Cabinet, and Cabinet can give its views as and when it's appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary.